Let's continue building the Connect 4 project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. Previously, we set up the turtle screen and we used world coordinates to make that to make sure that the right corner, top right corner is say 500, 500, and the bottom left corner is minus 500, minus 500. So when I click here, this is approximately minus 500 and say 500. Now with this reference as set, I am going to draw the base of the board using, let's say, a rectangle and a few circles with these coordinates. So for example, I start with a rectangle at minus 350, minus 100, go to 350, minus 100, so same y, but change of x. And then I choose 350, 500 and minus 350, 500 to be like my base board. On top of that, I have these circles, white colored circles, indicating the slots where the coins will go and fit in. In the beginning, the game board is completely empty. That's why I color them all white. These slots are separated by, let's say, a spacing of 100 and the radius is 40. Now, again, there is nothing, let's say, magical about these numbers. I'm just choosing them so that the game board looks the way it is looking. You can obviously, choose to do it differently. You can choose different coordinates. The principles will remain exactly the same. Now to draw this board, in fact, I will use two functions, both of which are quite, let's say, familiar to us. I'll use a function called draw rectangle. Basically, that will draw the base, which is starting at minus 350, minus 100, filled in blue color, and then I go to all the 4 points as expected, and I, let's say, complete this rectangle. On top of that, we will use a function called draw circle, which will again, build on top of t dot circle. It will set the x and y coordinates as I want, set the heading correctly, set the fill color that we want. So it could be white, red, or blue, white being empty, for example, and it will draw a circle. So really, this is something that we have done before. In fact, I've already got these functions into my project. So, I already have, let's say, the draw rectangle and draw circle. If I were to, let's say, draw rectangle, notice I get a nice rectangle coming up here. I can verify the coordinates by clicking on them. So that's roughly minus 350, minus 100. On the right side is 350 plus 350 and minus 100. Top right is, let's say, 350 and roughly 500. And top left is minus 350 and 500. That's exactly what I wanted. No surprise really. I just told the turtle to go to those coordinates and draw the rectangle. Now I have got draw circle. Now remember, I have to draw many circles on this. In fact, it turns out that the circles are arranged in 6 rows and 7 columns. So I'll just define two variables here called n rows is, let's say, 6 and n calls is, let's say, 7. And I'll draw a new, I'll define a new function called draw board, which basically just calls this draw circle many times over in a repeated loop because I want to draw two-dimensional grid here. So I just go and say for kk in range, let's say n rows, and for jj in range, let's say n calls. And really what I want to do is to call this function and again. So I just call, let's say, draw circle. Now I will assign the x and y coordinates so that the circles kind of align nicely. The way I'll do that is by saying that, look, I need a circle at, let's say, minus 340 plus 100 times, say, jj, because remember jj is counting the columns, and 100 is the separation between circles. The y value I will put at 450 minus, let's say, 100 times kk. Now again, this is nothing, fancy. All I know that this is minus 350 on x, so I'm just placing the circles at separation of 100 on the x direction, and I know this was 500, so I'm placing them vertically down using, let's say, this. So that's jj and that's kk, so depending on row and column. And of course the radius of the circle has to be 40. So I will set, let's say, radius is 40, and I'll set the fill color for now to be, say, white. That's because in the beginning the circles are all empty. Now, of course, the circles have to be drawn on top of the rectangle. So I'll just go and call draw rectangle, before setting up this loop. So that draws the base rectangle and then when I now run this piece of code, if I call the function draw, let's say, board, no surprise, it draws for me the board that I had been looking at. So now I've got the base sky blue rectangle, and on top of that, these circles, which are exactly the way I wanted them to be, aligned because of this for loop here. So think through it carefully, not very hard. Basically, JJ and KK are taking different values, and that is giving these circles the location that we wanted. In fact, with this, the game setup is complete. We will, as the game proceeds, we will, fill up these circles as being red or blue, depending on whether they are occupying the, player coin or the computer coin. But all of that will be done as we move forward. I hope this was interesting to you. In general, if you look at YByte curriculum, you'll realize that we always learn Python programming through such fun activities because applying concepts is when we really learn, when we really have a good understanding. Do look at our website www.ybyte.in because you will find many, many, many such activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.